Hello and welcome to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Kabumas-Loomis. Here on the Blog Chronicles podcast, we talk with world-renowned bloggers living their dreams and mid-tier bloggers chasing their dreams. What we do is dive deep into the guest's personal story and or talk about their expertise and find out some things that they know that can help bloggers like you be more successful. Before we begin, let me point out that the Blog Chronicles is sponsored by BuildYourOwnBlog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. Visit BuildYourOwnBlog.net to start your new blog today. All right, so who's going to be our guest today? Today we're going to talk with author, blogger, and copywriter Steve Roller. He has a new book out called The Freelancer Manifesto, 11 Big Ideas to Stand Out and Thrive in the New Economy. Steve has been working for himself for many years. He's not one to boast, so I'll go ahead and tell you that he makes six figures per year as a copywriter, website owner, author, and personal coach. He's successful, has a beautiful family that he gets to spend time with on his own terms, so I know that you'll want to listen to him today. Steve blogs over at cafewriter.com. He's built a large following online. He has a huge Facebook group called the Copywriter Cafe, which has thousands of members, and he recently started a new membership website over at the cafewriter.com site. And Steve has done a lot of personal coaching for freelance copywriters. In fact, I was mentored by Steve personally through most of 2013 as I was getting started as a freelance copywriter. I attended one of Steve's writing retreats that year as well, so I know firsthand how helpful Steve is. He's a gifted teacher, he's an encourager, he's a guy that makes you feel good when you spend time with him, so I'm really looking forward to introducing Steve to you today. If you are wanting to work for yourself from home, you'll definitely want to listen in as we focus on this topic today. Pretty much all of the content of Steve's new book, The Freelancer Manifesto, applies to bloggers, not only copywriters. It applies to bloggers and really any type of freelancer, designers, consultants, coaches, whatever you do. If you're self-employed, you'll want to hear what Steve Roller has to say today. So let's get right to it. Here's my interview with cafewriter.com blogger Steve Roller. Hi, Steve Roller. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Matthew. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here and I'm looking forward to doing this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. You know, Steve, I've known you now for 6 years, and I'm so grateful that I met you when I was starting out as a freelancer back, I think it was like 6 years ago now, 2012, I think it was.
Yep.
The personal coaching calls we did in 2013 and your writing retreat that I attended in Vermont, those were all instrumental in helping me to grow and to get to be better in this wild west called the gig economy or freelancing. In fact, some advice you gave me in 2013 led one of my copywriting clients to become a business partner. And so, you know, I wanted to make sure I shared that because any freelancer out there who is not familiar with you, Steve Roller, should be, and they need to visit your blog at cafewriter.com or connect with you on Facebook. And they should get your book that we're going to be talking about today. So I just wanted to thank you for being such a giving person out there and providing a lot of hope and encouragement for freelancers.
Man, thank you for saying all that. I really appreciate it. And I remember the first time we met. Well, I know we met online, but I remember going to dinner at a nice Italian restaurant with you and talking and continuing the conversation with coaching calls and the retreat and stuff. But no, man, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me, and I'm glad that that it had that effect and that you did something with it. And you know, it's just been fun to watch your career take off since then too, and for a lot of reasons, a lot of things that you're doing right. But it's just been fun to watch you, and I'm excited to see where you are today and where it's all going, and we'll be talking more about that too. But anyways, thanks for saying all that, man.
Absolutely, Steve. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about a book that you just wrote called The Freelancer Manifesto, 11 Big Ideas to Stand Out and Thrive in the New Economy. Now, I read this book, and I will say I loved the book. You really did a nice job on this, Steve. And, it's a fantastic book for anyone considering going into freelancing. And I like how in the first part of the book, you call it the dark side of freelancing. And what you do is you talk about the realities of freelancing, the negatives, and you bust a lot of myths about freelancing that are out there, which was very refreshing because, like you say in the book, you don't hear a lot of people talking about the realities of working for yourself. So let's start with the dark side of freelancing.
You've got a great voice for that, Mark. Yeah.
Do the
Yeah.
Darth Vader breathing.
So what can I say, or what do you want to know about, or what do your listeners want to know about the dark side, do you think?
Well, okay, I've put together some questions for you. And I'd like to start with, there's a lot of freelancers out there. They sit on the beach while they work. They get to work at home in their pajamas. And I know you love those two descriptions I just made about freelancers.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, those of us who have freelanced know that, that's not reality. That's like poppycock. But we know that, that's how marketers sell products that target freelancers. So why did you decide to get so real in your book? Were you trying to blow some people out of the water? Why did you decide to spend some time on these negative aspects to freelancing?
Yeah, good question. And it wasn't really to, blast anybody that's promoting that side of things. I have no problem with the fact that there's marketers out there that are promoting the freelance lifestyle and that it can be fun and that you can write on the beach and all that stuff. Yeah, my purpose isn't to, you know, say anything negative about them in general, but I guess what I really want, Matt, is for people who are thinking about getting into this to understand the realities. And for me, I really was, and I guess I should say that, yeah, maybe I am, I think that whole aspect has been oversold.
Mm-hmm.
So, the whole notion of the idea that anybody can do it, that it's easy, that it's fun, that it's really lucrative right away and all this stuff. And those things can happen, but I want people to realize I'm not trying to sell freelancing, that is, I'm really not trying to sell it. I'm trying to show people who have decided that they want to do this, hey, here's the reality, and this is what it's going to take. So I guess I started out with that because I don't see anybody else doing it. Everybody is talking about the fun, lucrative, freedom aspects of it, and those things can be there, but I want people to know that if they're going to get into this, that it's going to take work. And I guess maybe in a way I do want to kind of scare some people off, because there's some people that get into this that have kind of no business of doing it. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. They think it's going to be really easy, and they don't know what it's going to take to develop the skills and to develop a marketing plan and to get clients and all this stuff. So I started with that really to, I guess, to combat the overselling of the fun lifestyle, and just really to show people the reality. I just wanted to, and obviously from a book angle, it was just a contrarian viewpoint that made for a good book. So
Yeah.
all those reasons.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm really glad you did, actually. In fact, in chapter 4, you slay 7 sacred cows of freelancing. And the first one you butcher is the myth that anyone can succeed in freelancing. Now, since we're talking about the dark side here first, tell us what type of person cannot succeed in freelancing. Like, for those listening right now, if they're willing to be honest with themselves, how can they take an honest look at their personality and determine freelancing may not be right for them?
I think if somebody really works well under a lot of structure and order, and they like hierarchy, and they like the typical company structure of jobs. And I've worked in that kind of environment too. But if people crave that and they crave, regular feedback on their work from somebody, and they want, recognition for their work, and they need regular, benchmark salaried increases and promotions, and they really are into the idea of titles, and they like going to a place and feeling like they're getting some work done, and then leaving their work and coming home and having a real life at home. If someone likes all those things, that person probably is not going to do well in the freelance world, because we don't have order, we don't have structure, we don't get recognition from people very often. We don't have anybody helping us. We don't have a boss. We don't have someone somewhere to go. And this is a small aspect, and I don't know if I really touch on this in the book, but some people like the idea of getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed, putting on nice clothes, getting in their car and driving to an office, like driving to work, to their job, and feeling like, okay, that's like actually doing something. Some people can't wrap their head around the idea that, hey, I can walk down the hallway to my home office, and that's where I'm going to work, and I'm going to eat. So all those things. So if somebody needs more order and structure and recognition in their life, and needs someone kind of telling them what to do, this is not going to work for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you covered that. JOB, right? There's that attitude out there, and a lot of people use that, and they bash job situations. I recently heard John Acuff talk about how people that, these entrepreneurs that bash corporations and job situations are actually doing something really dumb, because they're, here they are trying to scale a business, right? And they're going to be hiring people, employees, but yet they're bashing jobs.
Yeah. I really don't like that acronym. For people that know the acronym JOB, just over broke, the idea that, hey, if you're working for someone else, if you're working for the man, if you're working for corporate America, you're just getting by, and you're never going to accomplish anything significant yourself. That's hogwash. I mean, more power to this country, our society would not operate without corporations and jobs and hierarchy and structure. And there's a lot to be said for having a regular job with a salary, with getting paid every 2 weeks, with benefits and 401k, and having a boss and having somewhere to go and being able to leave it. All those things are great for people that for people that want that, for the right, and at different seasons in your life, that might be a good fit. So this idea that freelancing is just that's the dream that everybody wants and everybody should aspire to, and that's obviously what everybody would want to have. Why wouldn't you want the freedom and the lifestyle and the fun and the beach and all that stuff? That's a bunch of hogwash. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot to be said for regular jobs. So I think it's just a matter of determining for yourself, is that the best fit for me? Or maybe should I look into this idea of working for myself? And again, you may not be necessarily one type of person or the other your entire life. It may just be seasons that you're going through. I went through a season when my kids were smaller where I needed to have a job. I needed the benefits. I needed the health insurance and all that kind of stuff. And then at a certain point, I transitioned out of that. But I wouldn't have been able to function very well at a certain point in my life in the freelance world either. So it's got to be the right timing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much more we could talk about on that. Let's go ahead then now and focus on those of us. Oh, what I was going to say is that's what I like about your book, is how, if somebody is listening right now and they are unsure about freelancing, they think they might want to do it, but yet they're not sure. This is a really good book, Steve's book, The Freelancer Manifesto. You should pick it up, because because of the fact that he covers the realities of it, it will really help you to decide whether it's freelancing is for you or not.
It could be the cheapest, quickest way for people to actually it could save people, and I'm not exaggerating here, it could save someone thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I do know people that thought that, hey, I'm tired of, and they were running away from their job and away from their boss. And they thought, okay, I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to try this freelance thing. And they did it, and they spent inordinate amount of money on courses and programs and coaches and conventions and all this stuff, and trying to build their business. And it didn't work out in the end anyways. And then they were back to a job, and they had spent a lot of money. So yeah, in some ways, I actually want people to read this. For $20, you might save yourself tens of thousands of dollars from going down the wrong path. But on the other hand, the ideas in the bright side of the book in part 2 I think if you apply them, will, make you a lot of money too, because I give people strategies and ideas to really stand out and thrive if this is the way they want to go.
Exactly. Now, let's suppose that someone reads your book and they decide that freelancing is for them. They're going to shift into something that you talk about a lot in the book. You call it, and well, you don't just call it this. This is a term that everybody's using now. It's called the gig economy or the new economy. I understand what the gig economy is personally, but there are probably a lot of bloggers out there, people aspiring to blog full-time, and they don't realize they will become a part of this economy gig. So I was wondering if you could help us understand what the gig economy is, this new economy. How does it work today?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of societal trends and things that led to this point. But what I take the gig economy to mean is that at this point in time, and it's going to become an ever increasing part of our culture, is that more and more people, even if they do have a full-time job, more and more people are doing something on the side as well. And part of that came from necessity, as salaries have stagnated and as people have needed to work more and the cost of living and inflation has gone up, but salaries haven't kept up with that. Mm-hmm. Part of that is out of necessity. So I know a lot of people who have good paying regular full-time jobs, excuse me, who for monetary reasons have chosen to also do something in their part-time. So I know people who do, who are photographers or graphic designers, or they have these skills that they developed. Maybe they always had them from way back, or maybe they developed them recently online, but they have these other skills that they can do for people. And in addition to their job, so they do it on the weekends or in the evenings and stuff like that. By some reports that I've read, this was a few years back, there were a lot of reports that said that by the year 2020, they estimated that 40% of all workers were going to be, in some form of freelance work or working for themselves or self-employed. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know where we are today in 2018 with that actual statistic, but I believe that we're probably getting close to it. So the gig economy could mean somebody that's got a full-time job and just doing something on the side, or somebody that's in this full-time, but they're doing different gigs for different people. So for example, as a copywriter, I have a number of different clients and people that pay me to do what you could call a gig, a job, a project. But I do it, and sometimes it's an ongoing thing where they need me every month, but sometimes it's just a one-time thing. That's a gig. They need it. I can provide it. They pay me for it. And in a way, I don't know if I'm describing this very well, but in a way, Matt, I think it's a very efficient way for our economy to run, because the people who need services only need to hire people when they actually need something. And there's all these people that do things. So like, for example, I just had a logo done. Well, I don't have to hire a graphic designer or hire an agency or that. I can just go online, pay someone $200 to make me a logo, and they make me a logo, and then I'm done with them, and they're on to somebody else then. Mm-hmm. all these things. So I guess, I don't know. I think all that to say, I think we've been getting to this point for a long time, but it's here to stay. And because of the internet and being able to work online and being able to work from anywhere and provide these skills and connecting buyers and sellers for all these services, it all combines for this gig economy, this new economy that we're in. And I for one, think it's a wonderful thing. And if you're on either end as a buyer buying services or as a service provider making money in this gig economy, either way, I think it's a good thing if you can position yourself right and if you can somehow stand out and make it work for you.
Yes, definitely. We will get more into the how here in a little bit. Yeah, the gig economy definitely is here to stay for sure. So you see it as a good thing, obviously. You said it, you think it's wonderful.
I do, and I see so much, from and I won't get into all this, but I see so much of it in the press as it's a bad thing. It's like, oh, jobs are going away and everybody's having to, hustle online and do these little piddly things online and the gig economy and there's no benefits and people are being taken advantage of and all this stuff. And
Mm.
like, no, this is a good thing. Even here's another example, two examples real quick. Uber is a prime example of the gig economy. So people, I mean, it's certainly a disruptor to the taxi cab industry. The taxi cab industry doesn't like Uber, but
Yeah.
Uber is great for people who want to get around. When my college-age son needs to get around, he doesn't have a car. He just calls up an Uber on his app on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
And for people providing that service, last time I used an Uber actually was out in Vermont at my retreat. I took an Uber from the airport to the inn, and the guy who picked me up was a guy my age, a middle school English teacher who has a good job. And this was in October, so this was on after he was done teaching for the day. But he picked me up in his Uber, in his car, and drove me. And he had told me he had just gotten started 2 months before. In 2 months, as a full-time middle school English teacher, he had also found the time to give 500 Uber rides around Burlington, Vermont.
Wow.
Ooh, so he's making as much money, maybe more, probably as much money driving for Uber than he is as an English teacher, but he loves it. And this is the kind of thing. People are just piecing together whatever works for them. And, so I could give all kinds of examples, but that's an easy example that people understand. That Uber is part of the gig economy, and I think it's a great thing. It's an efficient way for our economy to operate.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the gig economy too. Airbnb is another big example.
Yep.
All right, Steve, let's transition into another one of your sacred cows that you slaughter. In your book, this is a sacred cow where people say you have to focus on a specific niche to be successful. Now, you do acknowledge that a narrow focus can be profitable. You just, believe that it isn't necessary. So why do you think that is?
Why do I think that you don't have to?
Yeah, why do you think you don't have to focus on a niche?
I think it's been over promoted, just like just like some other things have been over promoted, the fun aspect. But I think it's been over promoted by, get this, the people who specialize in helping you find a niche.
Right.
So, but to answer your question, why do you not need to? So what you're talking about is like, okay, if you're gonna, like, in our world of copywriting, and in this book, by the way, it's speaking to all kinds of freelancers, not just copywriters. But in our example, copywriters. So let's say somebody is a copywriter. The common advice, the standard advice would be, well, the only way you're going to make it is if you specialize in a particular niche. So maybe you like pets and you like the whole world of pets, so become a pet copywriter. Well, that's fine and that's good, but the thing is, you're still, no matter what niche you pick, you're still competing with a lot of other copywriters who are also in that specialty. So somehow you also need to stand out in a different way. And for me, the two other ways that I think people can stand out without even picking a subject niche is to either pick a service niche and specialize and get really good at one particular service. So maybe your thing is, hey, I'm really good at email marketing, and that's going to be my thing, and I'm going to really become an email marketing master. Or I'm really good at writing video scripts, or whatever it might be. So maybe focusing on a particular service. But the other way, and that I think is just as important, is standing out and specializing by creating what I call your personal brand, and really standing out in a number of different ways by developing a strong personal brand where people know you for different things that you stand for, and the way you present yourself, and the way you call yourself, and your title, and your look. And there's a number, I'm not going to go off into all that direction, but there's a lot of different things that are incorporated into your personal brand. And I just think that in this day and age, with how competitive everything is and having to stand out, that you really need to focus on building a brand too, even more than just focusing on a particular niche. And just the last thing I'll say on that too is that I have never picked a niche. As a copywriter, I've been full-time copywriting now for 9 years, and I've written in all kinds of different areas. I've written for the fitness industry and alternative health and financial and all kinds of different subject niches.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, unless it's a really, really highly technical area that you really need to become a master of, I think the skills of copywriting, of the art of persuasive writing, applies across all different niches. And personally, I find it. I find it more interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
If I was writing about the same subject over, and I hear this, and one of the reasons I wrote this in the book is because for many years I've heard from copywriters who did settle on a subject niche, and they're like, oh my gosh, if I have to find one more way to write about dog food, I'm gonna just go berserk, because they get tired of writing about the same thing and the same stuff over and over. So I find it. One of the things I find really fascinating about being a copywriter is just that it's really interesting. You get to learn about different things all the time.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, that's why I slay that particular sacred cow.
I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. I know Purina here in St. Louis has in-house writers, so they're all focused on dog, topics.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realized after I read this part of your book, I'm like, in-house copywriters at ad agencies, they're not niche specific. They're writing for a wide variety of businesses. So why are freelancers any different? If you focus on the brand and ditch the niche, like our friend Catherine says, I think you'll be better off too.
That's an interesting point. You're right. Ad agency writers, they're writing for whoever the client is. They might be writing for Toyota one day. They might be writing about yogurt the next day. They might, and it's just, it's just more the creative process and the ability to come up with good ads and creative ads and good copy. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you. If you have a niche, or if you find a good niche, that's great. But like you say in your book too, if you find a untapped niche, don't expect it to stay untapped for too long, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about a few points in part 2 of your book called 11 Big Ideas to Overcome the Dark Side of Freelancing. All 11 of these ideas are good, by the way, and all 11 are good ideas to help you succeed at freelancing. And so we have time for one or two here today. First of all, let's talk about your idea to stay under the radar. I've been hearing you say that a lot, now and then over the past 6 years, as long as I've known you. You talk about staying under the radar. What does that mean when you tell freelancers to stay under the radar?
What I mean by that, Matt, is that oftentimes, and I've seen this over and over, as I run this group, as you know, called the Copywriter Cafe, and I see a lot of it's a group for copywriters, but what I see happen a lot of times is that people will come up with a new idea, and maybe they will find somewhat of an untapped niche, and or a new service that a lot of people aren't talking about. And what people really should be doing is focusing their efforts, their promotional efforts, their marketing efforts on just talking to their potential clients. And they may do that too, but what I find is a lot of times these people will also, they'll be so proud of their newfound skill or their newfound niche or their newfound service that they landed on and finally decided on, and they're excited about it and they're gung-ho about it. But what they'll do is they'll advertise it and shout it from the rooftops and promote it and talk about it in groups like my Copywriter Cafe, where it's full of other copywriters. And what a lot of times happens on, not that people are trying to steal other people's ideas, but other people will see that and they'll be like, oh, wow, that is kind of a good idea. And what happens is it just instantly kind of floods that market and makes it. And so what that person has done by talking about it and not staying under the radar is they have instantly brought upon themselves a lot of competition that they didn't need to have. And this is especially true if you're developing a new idea or you come up with a new name for a business even, or a new tagline or anything. Before you protect it, before you develop it fully, and before you protect it, like say intellectual property, for example, like say you come up with a really good tagline. I met with a copywriter just a few days ago in Atlanta, and she came up with a great tagline for her business. Well, she told me about it because I'm helping her, but she hasn't told anybody else about it. She took the extra step to actually register it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as a trademark, as a whatever you call it for when you actually have a slogan. But she protected intellectual property wise her slogan. And so that's what I mean by staying under the radar. Wait until you've got an idea or a business fairly well developed before you tell other people about it who aren't your prospects and clients. Not because people are out there to steal it, but ideas are ideas. And if I come up with a good name for something and I throw it out there in a blog post or something and I don't use it, well, it's there for the taking. Someone else can use it,
Yeah. And you actually recommend going ahead and using the trademark symbol, even if you haven't technically trademarked it, right?
I do, and I won't get into the whole legal part of that right now, but yeah, you can actually, so the little TM symbol that you see, which stands for trademark, you can use that on things. So like, let's say you come up with a name for something, like I use it with the Big Ideas Retreat, and I use it with a few other things names that I've coined, and I have the domain name and stuff. I haven't taken the step yet of, hiring an intellectual property lawyer and paying for the actual trademark on that. But if you can, you can see this at the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office website, that they will allow you to use that TM symbol if you have intentions of using it, and if you are using it, and especially if you have the domain name for it and all this stuff. You can use it with the intention of using it. Now, if you want to fully protect yourself, you would want to take that extra step of actually registering it. But what it does is it kind of shows people that you're serious about the use of it. And I think it shows, especially if you come up with something clever and kind of creative and that's kind of a neat idea, it kind of puts your stamp on it too and just says, hey, this is mine. I didn't just grab this out of nowhere. I actually developed this name. I created this name, and boom, trademark. So yeah.
I like that. I think I'm going to start doing that too. Okay, Steve, so when it comes to staying under the radar, how does a freelancer find a balance between keeping their ideas under the radar and then, on the other hand, promoting themselves or marketing their skills to pull in new business? Is balance even possible?
Yeah, I guess in this day and age where everything's online, it's kind of hard to stay quiet for too long and stay under the radar. as it were. But
Mhm.
I would say, mainly just don't don't be shouting it from the rooftops, and don't be telling your peers and your colleagues about it. Just focus completely on the audience that you want to serve, and chances are, slim that any of them are going to do anything with it or use your idea. But if you're talking to colleagues and people that are in the same profession as you, there's a very good chance that someone else is going to use your idea or borrow it or steal it outright.
Mhm.
So I would say the only way to do that, Matt, is just focus as much as you can on just talking to your audience. And this is an offside point, but it kind of relates to that, is that I see so many freelancers of all kinds, whether they're graphic designers or copywriters or whatever, spending a lot of time online with other people doing the same thing as them. And that's not
Mhm.
bad. I mean, I have a group myself of copywriters where I love the engagement and the participation, but I tell copywriters all the time, stop hanging out with other copywriters.
Yeah.
Hang out with your audience, hang out with your prospects. We are not paying your bills. We're not the ones, but I think there's this idea that we need to just be around other people and get validation for ideas and just the camaraderie and
Yeah.
sometimes commiserating over bad clients or whatever. But man, I think people in general just need to stop spending so much time. It's almost like if you were working in an office setting, the water cooler talk, spending too much time hanging out over the water cooler talking with your coworkers.
Yeah.
Well, in the virtual world, online as a freelancer, stop hanging out with other freelancers. Hang out with your clients who probably aren't hanging out on Facebook all day. They're doing their job. You can be serving them and go to them.
Yeah.
One last thing on staying under the radar, man, too, is that I'm still a big fan in this digital age and digital marketing economy, and I'm still a big fan of using print and direct mail. And direct mail is one way to avoid having your competitors see what you're doing with your
Mhm.
advertising and your marketing. So, for example, if you were in the fitness industry and you were trying to reach all the personal trainers within a 50-mile radius of you, you could get a list of that. You could easily compile a list of that and send those people things through the mail that your competitors are never going to see. Whereas if as soon as you put a Facebook ad up promoting your services to personal trainers, or you have even your website, everybody who competes with you is going to see that, and it's quite easy to copy what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of people out there, I think they're usually not in marketing or copywriting, but they think direct mail is basically dead, and they really couldn't be more wrong, right?
Oh, for sure. And I give examples of this all the time, but I mean, on any given day, my mailbox is full. And just yesterday, I got two things from local people. I got something from a tree trimming service and a landscaping service,
Mm-hmm.
and another one from an air conditioning service here in town. And obviously, with summer coming up in a few months, people are thinking about that. So, but on any given day, I get things from realtors and insurance people and financial advisors and all kinds of service professionals direct, and they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't working. So, yeah, by all means, direct mail is not dead.
It's not dead, and it helps you stay under the radar.
Yes.
Good stuff. Okay, Steve. Now, you mentioned a little while ago about personal branding, and I'd like to talk for a minute about that. In Chapter 9 of the Freelancer Manifesto, the chapter is called "Branding is the New Black," and it's all about personal branding. And you had someone else write that chapter. Now, I hope I pronounced her name right. Is it Desislava Dobrova?
Yeah, Desislava
Slava,
Dobrova.
Desislava Dobrova. Okay.
Yes. And she goes by Des, just DES is what she goes by. Yes. So that is the one chapter out of the 21 that I did not write. And yeah, well, go ahead. I'll let you ask your question.
Oh yeah, well, I was going to ask you, why you asked Ms. Dobrova to write that chapter for you. Why do you consider her one of the best personal branding experts out there? And maybe you could share a couple of things that you've learned from her.
Yeah, well, first of all, she is by far, and this wasn't just something I decided on a whim. I actually had full intentions of writing this chapter myself,
Mm-hmm.
but complete transparency here. I had 20 chapters done. I had the introduction done. I had the foreword was done. I had the back cover copy done. I had everything done
Hmm.
with this book except for chapter 9. And I just didn't, even though I've done it, and I've done personal branding for myself just out of instinct. I think I have a pretty good, strong personal brand with who I am and how people know me and how people perceive me and all this stuff. I just didn't quite feel qualified to write that chapter. But I wanted it in there because I think it's so important. So I had gotten to know Des, I don't know, just only about a year or two ago, I think. And I discovered her online, and she has this she has a group called the Badass Brand Squad, and it's really, and we joke about it. She and I talked just about a week ago, and we kind of joke about it, how we have such different styles. I mean, she's just, she's kind of this, she's young, she's hip, she's attractive, she has an accent, and I'm none of those things. So but she has done a phenomenal job and she has courses on branding and stuff. And I guess what I've learned from her is a couple things, Matt, is just, I truly do consider her to be like one of the foremost experts out there these days on branding, and not just for freelancers, but she's also consulting like with corporations and stuff like this on their branding. But so I feel strongly about it. I feel really good that I asked her to do this, and I was honored that she did do it for me. But a couple things that I've learned from her is that just, and this is talked about a lot, but I don't see it in action a lot, is just the idea of being authentic. I think, and just being real, and just, there's everybody, here's the thing, we're in a very competitive marketplace, and online, everybody's shouting and screaming and trying to get noticed and this and that. But what I think really gets you noticed is sometimes not the shouting and screaming and the big sales letters and the, being loud and shouting higher and louder than everybody else, but it's being authentic and being transparent. And she does a really good job of that with her own brand and her own company. And I that's one thing that I've taken from her. I think I was doing it already, but it's just really stressed to me the importance of being real with people and letting people see who you are. I intertwine my personal life and my business life a lot, so people, even clients know a lot of things about me in my personal life. They know about my kids and what they're doing, and they know that I like to travel, and they know a lot of things about me. So I try to just be really real, and I'm not, one of these people that thinks you should keep business and personal stuff completely distinct and separate. My life is kind of an open book online, and so this whole idea of authenticity, I think, is a big part of it. And then the idea of telling stories, and this is something that we hear a lot from a lot of people, and there's people like Donald Miller, who's got the Build a Story brand and stuff like that. And, a lot of bloggers and are talking about the idea of story, but Des does this really well herself in social media posts, in her email marketing, and on her website. But just telling stories. People will listen to stories more than they'll listen to a sales pitch or a sales letter or a promotion, So if you can find a way to incorporate stories into your personal brand, and again, this goes back to just telling people who you are and why you do what you do. So, I don't know if that answered your question, Matt, but
yeah.
I'm just really big on this idea of branding, and I just think Des does a great job of it, and I've learned some things from her. And just for anybody listening, just to let you know, look her up, Desi Slav DeBreva on Facebook, Badass Brand Squad. And just to let you know, Matt, and your listeners, she and I are going to actually be teaming up on something later this year or early 2019, like a live event. And it is going to be unlike anything that either of us has ever done, and unlike anything I think you've seen out there. And part of it that's going to be really interesting is we both have kind of different audiences, and she and I, we acknowledge the fact that we're both very different people, but we've had this really interesting connection, and we really are in sync on a lot of things, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be super powerful too. So I'll be talking about that more in the future.
Oh, that sounds intriguing, Steve. Yeah, for those of you listening, there's links in the show notes to Desi's website and her social media connections. I think I'm friends with her on Facebook, but I haven't yet dove into her content. So now I really want to do that.
Check it out when you get a chance, for sure.
Okay, fantastic. Steve, let's go to part 3 of your book now, which is called Your Abundant Future. Okay, so you talk about taking your business to level 11. You list 11 mental building blocks to lead a prosperous freelancing career. Can you elaborate on this a little bit? Maybe talk a little bit about a couple of these mental building blocks that will help freelancers to actually prosper?
Yeah, let me let me think, Matt. It's been a while since I read that chapter.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think what these 11 building blocks are. Okay, yeah. Okay, so first of all, ask me your question. What was the final question again there?
Yeah, if you could maybe just touch on one or two of the 11 and, give us a few tips on how a freelancer can really turn it up to 11 and succeed.
Yeah. So first of all, I got this level 11. For those of you that don't know the movie, this is Spinal Tap. You just look it up online. Go to YouTube. Look up level 11 Spinal Tap, and you'll see the little YouTube clip that this comes from. But it comes from a movie, the term. And so I won't go into that. But the idea of level 11 is taking it past level 10. Most things go to level 10, and you know what I'm talking about, Matt. But on speakers, the volume thing goes to 10. Well, we want to take it up to a level 11. So it's a metaphor. But the idea is going beyond what most people do and what the typical person is going to do. And so really making that one of your goals to just get to this level 11 of being super successful. I think too many people kind of dip their toe in the water and they kind of try this out and they hope for, I hope I can make it. I hope I can make as much as I did with my full-time job, or maybe the big goal is to make 6 figures in this. So my thinking on this is just the idea that we should be thinking kind of bigger than the norm. But one of the things that I put in there is, so I have these 11 mental building blocks. One of them is just to make a decision to reach this level 11. Another one is just not putting a premium on leisure time. Personally, I like having fun. I like traveling and stuff, but I've never understood this working for the weekend mindset, that, we got the drag of the 9 to 5 and Monday through Friday, and oh my gosh, finally thank God it's Friday, and the dreaded Monday and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't stand that attitude. It's like, why do you do it? And actually, I guess this is why a lot of people gravitate toward being a freelancer and doing their own thing, because they don't like that, that 9 to 5 thing. But I think whether it's a 9 to 5 or in your freelance world, you should be doing something that you enjoy. I mean, I truly, and it took me a while to land in this land of copywriting, but once I did, I'm like, I just knew I was enthralled with it. I love it. I won't go so far as to say I would do it if I wasn't getting paid, but I love what I'm doing. And I know that in some way, in some capacity, writing and copywriting will be a part of my life for the rest of my life, and I enjoy it. And but I don't going back to this idea of not putting a premium on leisure time. I think we put too much time, I don't know, in our culture. I think this is an American thing too, but the living for the weekend and just you work hard, but then the weekends are for play, and then you back to work, and then you back to, I'm just like, I don't know, my life is just kind of intertwined, and just, I actually enjoy spending a good part of a Saturday afternoon doing my work and enjoying that. And sometimes I go on Friday nights, I go to Starbucks and work for a few hours, and that people think I'm kind of a strange person for that. But that's just, to me, that's just, I don't know. I like doing things different than most people. And that kind of goes into another one of those 11 points too. And I'll finish with this one, but is just adopting just the contrarian viewpoint of work. I mentioned this in the book, but my good friend Ed Eslow always says, I want to live my life so that you can't tell if I'm working or playing. And so that kind of goes along with that, just why can't work be fun? So for me, writing a book is fun. I went away for 10 weeks. I went down to Ecuador for 10 weeks, and people ask me, well, what did you see and what did you do and this and that? Well, actually, I stayed in a studio apartment and I walked to a cafe every day and I wrote my book. That's what I did. And they're like, oh, that sounds kind of boring. And I'm like, no, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I did a few other things too. But anyways, most people associate work with drudgery. And I guess if you're doing something you don't like, I suppose it is. But I think it's important to find work that you really do love. And then, it's not going to be that way. So that's why I think, another reason why I think this whole gig economy is great, because even if you are working a full-time job and you have to do it because of you need the money and you need the benefits and all this stuff, why not find something that you really enjoy and that you could really get into and sink your teeth into, and maybe make a transition and do that on the side, but little by little transition into that full-time. So anyways, so that, and I'll leave just one last one that I think is just important is, I think this was number 7 in there of those 11 mental building blocks to get to level 11, is I think it's really important to study and learn from rich people. And I'm not going to go off on this and go off on a rant here or anything, but there's such an attitude in our country of just kind of despising or thinking that wealthy people somehow got that way by ill-begotten means. Either they con people, or they did it on the backs of the poor people that were working for them, or they inherited their wealth, or somehow they stumbled upon it in not the best way, and that if they got rich somehow, there must be something wrong with them, and they're not the people to emulate and admire and stuff like this. I say that's all wrong, and I think somehow we should find a way to study and learn from people who have accumulated wealth and built successful businesses, and find out and do everything we can to find out what they did, how they did it, and emulate them. And I would say go so far too as to try to surround yourself with people who either are wealthy or aspire to be wealthy. I, for the most part, hang out with people who are wealthy or people who want to get there. And that's not the most important thing in life, but I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to be really wealthy. And I think we should learn from people who are.
The book is called The Freelancer Manifesto. It's a great read by Steve Roller. If you are interested in getting this book, and I think you should, I've got links to Steve's Amazon author page down in the show notes. Now, I want to close this interview with one other question that I think the listeners will find fascinating. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So, Steve, as an authority on self-employment, I'd like to get your thoughts on the future of the gig economy, particularly the rise of robotics and artificial intelligence. For the aspiring writers out there, or designers, web developers, actually pretty much any line of work now is fair game. Should we be concerned about AI limiting our opportunities for work? What is your take on the future of freelancing?
Man, that is an excellent question, and that came out of the blue because I wasn't expecting it. So let me think here for a second. But it's a great question, and something that should be on everybody's mind. So first of all, future of gig economy, I think, number one, the gig economy is not going away. I think in the future, it is going to be it's not going to be the norm to have a regular job, and the people like us who are in this gig economy doing our thing and working here and there and working from wherever we want and working with this client here and that client there and piecing together a life and a business, that's going to be the norm, and the typical 9 to 5 is not going to be so common anymore. So I think the gig economy is here to stay, and again, going back to what I said earlier, I think it's a very efficient, effective, productive way to run the economy. But as far as where it's going so is your question, like with all this stuff with AI and robotics and stuff like this, are you asking, Matt, are some of us, depending on what we do, are some of us and our skills maybe in danger of being replaced? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what you think. You and I are in the copywriting field, and I know some copywriters maybe are a little concerned, a little worried that a robot could end up writing as well as a human.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think
I
we can survive, or who will survive?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I think it is a legitimate concern. I think a lot of the players, a lot of in our field, so talking about writers, content writers, even bloggers maybe,
Hmm.
and copywriters, all of those, all I think it's a legitimate concern. And I think, 5, 10 years from now, right now, people might not like me saying this, but I think there's a glut of writers. I think there's certainly a demand, but really, Matt,
Hmm.
content writing, copywriting, all this stuff is in danger of becoming a commodity because there are AI programs and stuff. There is AI that can write copy as good as any human. They've proven this, that they can write good headlines, and so the computers and stuff, based on, I don't know how all this stuff works, but a company could, not have to hire a human and just get it from other ways. So it is in danger of becoming a commodity. Now, who's gonna last, and who's gonna survive, and how are they gonna do it? I think I think there's always going to be a creative class. So I think, as much as, yeah, you can come up with a lot of stuff through AI, the people who have good ideas and can think about, I think where we're going to be able to bring value to our clients is if we are, this is something I talk about all the time. You've heard me say this, Matt, but if we can be, not to, if so I'm a copywriter, but instead of just delivering copy to people, if I can be known as an idea generator and a problem solver, that has value. And that's something that nobody can replicate. My brain and the ideas that I come up with and the way I think, and the ideas that I can convey to my clients, and help them, build their business with. So if we can give our clients ideas and be constantly generating ideas and interesting ways of looking at things, and new angles and new thoughts and new ideas and new concepts, that's what's going to be important. I think some of the commoditized stuff, the content writing, like writing an article, yeah, you could get a machine to write an article as a lot of humans, but if you're being creative and you're giving your clients ideas and you're helping them solve problems, those two things, giving them ideas and helping them solve problems, that's the way everybody should be thinking about their business. So whatever kind of freelance you're, I'm not talking just writers and copywriters here, whatever your business is, be thinking of yourself as someone who can help your clients think of new ideas that they wouldn't have thought of without you, and help them to solve whatever their business challenges, whatever their business problems are. And on top of all that, if you're a genuinely likable person, I can't stress this enough either, but, and this is something you can't learn, you can't read a book, you can't take a program on it, but if you're just a genuinely likable person, you get along well with people, and you have a good way of developing rapport with people and connecting with people, those people are going to rule the world, and those people are going to rule the gig economy. And that's what it takes. So being likable, generating ideas, solving problems, and you don't have to worry about all that other stuff, but you do have to keep your eye on things and adapt with the times, and maybe your services that you provide will change with the times, but be focused on those three things, and I think we'll be okay.
We finished with a bang, Steve. Steve, it's been fantastic having you on the Blog Chronicles today. Where can people connect with you on social media?
So three places. My website is cafewriter.com. On Facebook, I have a lively, engaged, friendly, helpful group for writers and freelancers and copywriters called the Copywriter Cafe. And at Amazon, you can find my author page, Steve Roller, or look for the book, The Freelancer Manifesto.
And you can find links to all those things Steve just mentioned in the show notes. Great. Well, Steve, I saw in your book that you already have your second book underway. So when that book comes out, I'd like to have you back on the Blog Chronicles.
Man, I would love to be back, and yeah, it is started. It's not very far, but it's definitely, I've always got the next one in mind. So I would love to come back, and thank you for having me. And I hope everybody listening has gotten some good ideas from this today. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, Matt, in the future, let me know.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter at Matt Loomis. Who is going to be featured on the next Blog Chronicles? He's one of the most controversial people on Facebook, a former left-wing activist and rapper who got a taste of entrepreneurship and became an anarchist as well as a successful online business owner. You won't want to miss my next guest. I'll see you next time.